10 powerful questions to ask yourself after 70. There's a quiet shift that happens after 70, not all at once and not always loudly. It's not marked by a celebration or a ceremony, but by the stillness of early mornings, the softness of memory, and the sudden realization that the world is moving fast. And you're moving differently through it. Slower perhaps, but deeper. Things that once seemed urgent don't shout as loud anymore. The calendar doesn't own you like it used to. And the noise of ambition, deadlines, and expectations fades, just enough for you to finally hear your own voice again. This stage of life is not a winding down, though it's often mistaken for that. It's a turning in. It's when the mirror begins to ask you not how you look, but how you see. It's when time no longer feels infinite. And strangely, that makes it more sacred, more generous, more real. And it's when questions begin to matter more than answers. Questions that are not about fixing or proving or impressing, but questions that reach beneath the surface, tap on the heart and whisper, "Are you at peace? Are you living true? Is there something still waiting to be felt, said, done?" Because even now, especially now, you're still becoming, still unfolding. You're not just a collection of memories. You're still in the making. The story didn't end when the job ended, or when the kids moved away, or when you blew out that birthday candle and thought, well, I guess that's it. There's more, there's always more. Not more noise, not more doing, but more depth, more meaning, more honesty. This isn't a video about regrets. It's not a checklist for productivity. It's an invitation to sit with yourself, not out of loneliness, but out of reverence, because you've made it this far. Through storms and seasons and silence, through love and loss, through the things you talked about and the things you didn't. And now in this moment, you've earned the right to ask yourself the kind of questions that can change the shape of everything that comes next. So let's begin. Not with fear or pressure, but with curiosity, with courage, with kindness for every version of you that got you here. Let's ask the questions that matter, while there's still time to listen to the answers. Wonder doesn't retire when we do. It doesn't age. It doesn't need youth, strength, or a schedule. It needs only presence. But somewhere along the way, we forget. The world teaches us to value logic over awe, answers over curiosity, survival over magic. And so we stop looking up at the stars just to feel small. We stop standing barefoot in the grass just to remember we belong to the earth. We stop noticing the way a child lights up at a butterfly, or how it used to make us light up too. So now ask yourself quietly, what still makes me pause? What still softens the noise in my chest and makes me feel alive? Is it the way the morning sun spills across your kitchen table? The sound of your grandchild's laugh? A song you haven't heard in decades, but that still knows your heartbeat by name? Wonder doesn't need to be loud. In fact, after 70, it rarely is. It shows up in subtle ways, in the warmth of your coffee mug on a cold day, in a book that feels like it was written just for you, in a conversation where someone truly listens and you feel seen. And if your life has felt a little gray lately, a little too quiet in the wrong kind of way, then maybe it's time to chase wonder again. Not to prove anything, not to be productive, but because wonder is what keeps the soul supple. It keeps your eyes open. It keeps you human. You're not too old for awe. In fact, you might be more ready for it than ever. So what still sparks your wonder? Find it, feed it, follow it. It's easy to forget who you are when you've spent a lifetime being who everyone else needed. You were the provider, the mother, the father, the caretaker, the leader, the one who showed up, stepped in, and held things together. You wore the title, carried the weight, met the expectations. And for years, maybe decades, it gave you identity, purpose, a sense of place. But now, as life quiets and those roles no longer call your name the way they used to, there's a different kind of silence that moves in. It's not empty, but unfamiliar. Because without the job, the daily obligations, the people who once needed you at every turn, who are you now? And maybe that question stings at first. Maybe it feels like loss, But here's the truth most people don't tell you. Beneath every role you've ever played, there's always been you. Your essence, your longings, your fears, your dreams. The roles weren't false, but they weren't the whole story either. You are more than what you did. You are more than who you were to others. So now is the time to reintroduce yourself to yourself. Without the labels, without the mask, without the weight of duty. Who do you want to be? Not for anyone else, but for you. What do you believe now? What do you care about? What parts of you have been patiently waiting in the wings, hoping for their moment? You are not lost. You are being returned to. This chapter of life invites you to step not into a new role, but into your real self. Gently, bravely, honestly. Because beneath the layers, you are still there. Wise, worthy, and waiting to be known again. We don't always bury things with shovels. Sometimes we bury them with busyness, with distractions, with years. We carry unspoken pain, unshed tears, and conversations that never made it past our lips. And we tell ourselves, it's fine, that was a long time ago, I've moved on. But have we really? Or have we just learned to live around the ache? Avoidance isn't weakness, it's survival. It's a way we protect ourselves from what we're not ready to face. But eventually, what we bury doesn't stay silent. It whispers. It leaks into our dreams. It sits in the pit of our stomach when a certain name is mentioned. It lives in the quiet moments when the distractions fade and something inside stirs. So ask gently, what am I still avoiding? Is it grief, guilt, regret? Is it a letter you never wrote? An apology you never gave? A truth you never spoke because it felt too heavy or too late? Maybe it's something simpler, an old passion you never let yourself pursue, a fear of being vulnerable, a resentment that's hardened into silence. This isn't about digging through pain for the sake of it. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of what's unspoken. Because you deserve peace not just on the outside but on the inside. And now in this quieter chapter, there is room to face it. Slowly, tenderly. You don't need to solve everything. You just need to stop running from the parts of yourself that are still waiting to be seen. Healing doesn't come from forgetting. It comes from finally turning toward what's been quietly following you all along. And when you do, you just might find that what you feared is smaller than you imagined. And that on the other side of it is something lighter. You've spent most of your life caring for others, loving them, sacrificing for them, showing up day after day in ways big and small. But how often have you extended that same love to yourself? There's a quiet heartbreak in realizing how little grace we give ourselves. We forgive others more easily than we forgive the person in the mirror. We see beauty in others but look at ourselves and only notice the lines, the weight, the should-haves and what-ifs. Now is the time to change that. Not with affirmations or surface positivity, but with truth, with real, unshakable tenderness for the person who has walked through every storm and still wakes up in the morning. Your body may be older, but it's carried you through more than anyone knows. Your face may be different than it once was, but those wrinkles are maps of laughter and loss, of endurance and grace. And the soul inside? She's still radiant. He's still worthy, still growing. So ask yourself, not how to look younger, or do more or be different, but how can I love myself deeper now than ever before? What if you treated yourself like someone you love deeply? What if you spoke to yourself like you would a dear friend who's done their best, who's still learning, who's worthy of compassion? You don't need to earn this love. You've already lived it. You've already proven your strength. Now it's time to soften toward yourself, to rest in your own kindness, to remember that even in your imperfections, you are profoundly enough. Not in spite of your years, but because of them. When we talk about legacy, we often imagine what we'll leave behind when we're gone, our will, our possessions, our name written on a plaque or in the family history book. But legacy isn't something you pack neatly in a box to be opened when you're no longer here. It's something you're already living every day and every moment. Right now you are shaping it, with your words, your choices, your presence. So ask yourself, What legacy am I living, not just leaving? It lives in the way you show up for people. In the way you listen without judgment. In the way you tell stories that help the younger ones feel braver, wiser, and more seen. It lives in the way you treat the stranger who delivers your groceries. In the phone call you make just to say, "I was thinking about you." It lives in the way you soften someone's hard day without even knowing you did. You may not be remembered for the titles you held or the money you made, but you will be remembered for the way you made people feel. Were you kind? Were you honest? Were you present? And maybe even more importantly, are you still being those things now? Because legacy isn't about how many people remember your name. It's about how many lives were better because you lived. So, don't wait for a eulogy to be written. Write it now, with every generous act, every moment of courage, every ordinary kindness. That's how your legacy walks the earth while you're still on it. There are places inside us that still hum with life. They're not always loud, but they are unmistakable. It's that moment when something clicks, and you feel awake, not just breathing, but alive. And the truth is, we don't feel most alive when we're the busiest. We feel most alive when we're most ourselves. So ask, where do I still feel most alive? Maybe it's when you're digging in the garden, hands dirty, heart quiet. Maybe it's when you're sharing a story that makes someone laugh so hard they can't breathe. Maybe it's when you're walking by water or painting or sitting in the same chair you've sat in for years. Only this time, you notice how the light hits the wall just right. It's easy to fall into routine as we get older, to believe that the days of feeling lit up are behind us. But they're not. They just ask for more intention now. They ask us to notice, to choose, to say yes to the small things that stir us awake. Being alive doesn't mean doing everything. It means doing something that makes you feel like time disappears, that makes you forget the aches, the doubts, the labels, that returns you to your body and says yes. This is what it means to be here. Don't underestimate those moments. They're sacred. They're proof that you're not finished yet. You're still here. So go where the light is. Do the thing that makes you lose track of the clock. Say yes to what makes your eyes sparkle again. You're not too old for joy. You're right on time for it. There are things we carry that don't show up on X-rays. Wounds that don't bleed but still ache. Grudges that sit heavy in the chest, long after the moment has passed. Sometimes it's someone who wronged you and never said sorry. Sometimes it's a parent who couldn't love you the way you needed. Sometimes it's a betrayal, a lie, a silence that screamed louder than any words. And sometimes, the person you need to forgive is yourself. So ask gently, without shame, who do I need to forgive to lighten my soul? Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean what happened was okay. It doesn't mean you have to invite someone back into your life or rewrite history. Forgiveness is simply choosing not to let the past hold your heart hostage, because resentment is heavy. And when you carry it for years, it shapes the way you see everything, the way you trust, the way you speak, even the way you love. You deserve better than that weight. You deserve softness, you deserve release. Maybe it's time to forgive the friend who disappeared when you needed them most, the child who said something that cut too deep, the person who never showed up the way you hoped they would. Or maybe it's time to forgive the version of yourself who didn't know better, the younger you who made choices in fear or silence or desperation, the you who didn't have the words back then but would have used them if they'd known how. You are not weak for forgiving. You are free. Let go, not for them, for you. So, you can wake up a little lighter, so your hands are empty enough to hold joy again. There's a kind of silence that feels like peace, and there's a kind that feels like loneliness. The older we get, the more silence we meet. Children grow up and the house gets quieter. The phone rings less often. Friends move away or pass away. The rhythms of life slow down, and what's left is space, stillness. And the question, how do I feel in the quiet? So pause and ask, what is my relationship with silence? Some people fear it. They fill the room with television, background noise, endless errands, because being alone with your own thoughts can be a confrontation. Silence asks us to listen to what we've been trying not to hear. But silence isn't your enemy. It's an invitation. It's the space where clarity lives. It's where old pain can be soothed, where creativity can stretch its legs, where the soul can whisper what it's been aching to say. And the more you sit with silence, not as something to be endured, but as something to be embraced, the more you realize it isn't empty. It's full of presence, full of truth, full of you. Let it become your friend. Let it teach you how to rest, how to breathe, how to hear your heart without interruption. Let it remind you that even when no one else is in the room, you are still whole. Silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means something sacred is unfolding beneath the surface. And sometimes the quietest moments are the ones that speak the loudest. We spend much of our lives learning how to be liked, how to be accepted, how to be who others expect us to be. We play roles, we wear masks, we choose our words carefully so we don't stir the water too much. And after a while, it becomes second nature. We become experts at hiding in plain sight. But now, in this season of your life, maybe it's time to ask, have I let people truly know me? Not the version of you that kept the peace. Not the one who always said, I'm fine, even when you weren't. Not the one who held everything together while quietly falling apart. But the real you. The one with fears and longings, with quirks and opinions, with stories no one's ever heard because they never asked, or because you were never sure how to tell them. Letting people know you is a risk. It means being seen. And being seen means being vulnerable. But here's the truth. No one can love the parts of you they don't know. No one can connect with your truth if you never offer it. So if there are people in your life you love, tell them who you are. Tell them what shaped you. Tell them the mistakes that still sting, the memories that still make you laugh, the hopes you still hold close. Let them see the human behind the history. And if there's no one right now who really knows you, it's not too late to find them. Friendship doesn't have an expiration date. Intimacy isn't reserved for the young. And your story still matters. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are worth being known, deeply and honestly, just as you are. Let your soul step out from behind the curtain. Let someone in. Let the real you be loved. Time is a strange teacher. When we're young, we think it's infinite. Later, we realize it's fragile. It doesn't always announce when the last chance is coming. It just moves, quietly, relentlessly. So ask yourself, not with fear, but with clarity. What would I still regret not doing? What's still calling to you from the corner of your mind? A place you long to visit? A letter you've never written? A recipe you always wanted to pass down? A fear you've never dared to face? A person you still want to forgive or finally tell the truth to? Regret isn't about the size of the act. It's about the weight of the absence, the unsaid, the unlived, the unnoticed chances that slipped through because we thought there'd be more time. But here's the gift: you still have time. You have this moment, this day, this breath. And that is enough to begin. Maybe what you need to do isn't bold or grand. Maybe it's as simple as reaching out to someone you've lost touch with, or planting something that will bloom long after you're gone, or telling your own story in your own words while you still can. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It may never come. Don't wait for permission. It's already yours. You've earned the right to chase whatever still tugs on your heart. You've earned the freedom to risk joy, and when the end comes, and it will, as it does for us all, may you have fewer "I wish I had's" and more "I'm glad I did's." Let the question stir you. Let it nudge you out of hesitation. Let it walk with you into whatever comes next, because life is still happening, and some of the most beautiful chapters may still be unwritten. There's something sacred about asking the right questions, not to find quick answers, but to slow down, long enough to feel, to listen, to honor the life you've lived, and the life that's still unfolding. Maybe some of these questions stirred Something in you, a memory, a longing, a truth you hadn't let surface in years. That's not an accident. That's your spirit speaking. That's the wisdom of your years rising to the surface. Not for anyone else's approval, but for your own freedom. After 70, the world might stop asking about your dreams. People may assume your becoming is complete, but they'd be wrong. You are still becoming. Every breath, every sunrise, every quiet moment with a cup of tea or a familiar song, every one of those is proof that your soul is still growing. Still capable of love, still capable of change, still capable of meaning. This chapter is not about what you've lost. It's about what you're uncovering. The deepest connections, the gentlest forgiveness, the boldest honesty, the quietest joys. These questions aren't about fixing anything. They're about embracing everything. They're about holding your own story with both hands and saying, I've lived, and I'm still living. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful thing you can do now is simply to be fully present with the people you love, with the life you have, with the version of yourself who's been waiting all along to be fully seen. So let this be your gentle reminder. It's not too late. It never was. To love deeper, to laugh louder, to speak more truthfully, to rest more fully. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to keep showing up with your questions, your heart, and your hope. Because even after 70, especially after 70, your story still matters, and the best parts may still be ahead.